How's it going, everyone? It is Andre Williams, and today we're going to be talking about SNDL Sundial growers. There's some big news that went down in the cannabis industry. We also saw that Sundial had a nice pop in the morning session, but like I do in all my other videos, we're going to be going into a technical analysis. We're going to go over the news, and I'll give you guys my final thoughts afterwards. All right, so let's get into the technical analysis for SNDL Sundial growers. So the reason why I'm going to get into this very quickly is, hey, just to give you guys an update, and also some news just came out today, which is really, really important in regards to anyone who might be holding this stock as well. So first thing that we're going to be looking at is the pre-market action, and then we're going to be ending it off with the aftermarket action as well, all right? So now, we can see here on the 22nd, which was today, first thing, we had a gap down, right? So we came from $1.53 starting the day at $1.40. All right. So this is not something, of course, you don't want to expect and you don't want to see, right? But at the end of the day, what I liked was the momentum that was carrying through. So let's go over it even further. So we're going to switch over to the 1 day, 1 minute. All right. So as you guys can see here, it was very, very consistent for the first for the first hour. Let's say for the first 2 hours, hour and 45 minutes to be exact, right? Stayed within this particular area in the low 140s. Then we started having a move up, right? And as you can see a move, we ended up getting to $1.51. Then we started having some sell-offs and so forth. And then right around 9 o'clock, got to that low of around 142. But if you've been watching these videos long enough, what does this look like to you? What do you see here? It's been here before, so this was a support area going on inside the pre-market. Keep in mind, pre-market doesn't have as much volume as regular trading hours, so we need to understand that, all right? We can even see here at the 141 support. So we know we have support in these areas. So as we came out into market open, you could see it makes a strong move all the way to $1.60, all the way down here from $1.43. And like I said, that's a really, really good move. I was really not expecting that. But also what we need to take into consideration, this is an area, I'm going to show you guys, is why I'm extending the chart, where it's very, very strong, where if we get past, let's say, the $1.60 or the $1.58, we can expect to have a strong move. So if it would have gotten above this $1.60 area, we already know that the next move area could be around $1.65, right? Something to take into consideration. So when we met that resistance at $1.60 right here, what ended up happening? We started having a sell-off, right? So it started selling off, and we got to this low over here at 11.15. Hit that high at around 10.06, right? So when we hit this low, of course, for many, they would look at this and be like, hey, is this where I buy? Is this where I add and so forth? Let's take a look at the RSI right here. As you can see here, it's around 45. So that would be considered as fair value. But when it comes to a stock like this, we've already seen in pre-market where it was going to the $1.40 area. So that's why I would see it as an area to look for, that looking for this area up here around, even though it's not that much or not that big of a difference, of $1.47 when you know you get it for $1.40. Just for the fact that, hey, today was also a red day. It wasn't a great day in the market whatsoever. So usually when you see some lows and it's like the first 2 hours of the morning, even if you see like a dip here and on a red day, it's usually not the greatest of ideas to add, especially if you're looking at it long term. If you're going to be trading short term and doing scalping, then hey, that's a good area by looking at the RSI, because it was literally, as you can see here, 45, even down to the area where you see the 40s, right? So it ended up making a move here to $1.54. So $1.47, $1.54. Anyone who's scalping, that's a pretty good scalp. That's 10 cents, right? So if we take a look here as well, where do we see support? Right on that $1.50. Look at that. See that? We spent a lot of time on that support area of $1.50. We broke it a few times, but again, we always came back up, especially when we look here around 111 from the move from $1.48 to $1.55. So on the day, we saw our resistance levels were $1.55 and $1.60. So usually when I see this, and if there's no new news, there's no catalyst or anything that's very dramatic in regards to what can move the stock price, aside from what you see in the morning, then there's a good chance it's going to start going downward, right? And also on top of that, when the market is really bearish, you're going to have a lot of people who are selling, especially when you see this area. And if you take a look at the RSI, it's literally like right at 72. 72. So what happens here, that means that it's overbought. So you're going to have some selling that occurs. And that's why we end up getting to a low over here of $1.40. We already know a lot of traders and a lot of the heavy trading towards the end of the day tends to die down. A lot of traders are exiting their positions. So there's a lot of times where, we can end up getting a good deal on a stock, especially if it had a catalyst earlier in the day and then just started kind of winding down a bit. End of the day is usually a pretty good sign of looking at, hey, you know what? This might be a possible place to start a position. So as you can see, let's take a look at what's happening in after hours. This is great shaded area. We see support. Look at that. But then as it went on later, we broke support and got down to $1.38. So by looking at this and taking into consideration the news that came out today, I'd love to see a gap up and getting back into that 140 area. If we don't get that gap up that we're looking for, let's bring the chart back. Then the next level down, if we gap down, could possibly be around 135 and 130. That's when we extend the chart. That's why I had to do that, to show you guys and give you a reason why I'm giving you those predictions. So again, I'm definitely looking for a move to the upside with the news that came out and so forth. All right, so as we can see here on ABC News, New Jersey legalizes recreational marijuana. 14 states and DC have now legalized cannabis. Like I said, this is great for the entire industry as a whole. Let's kind of go into the article a little bit more. So New Jersey has officially become the latest state to permit recreational marijuana use. The New Jersey state legislature approved a series of bills Monday that regulates the sale of cannabis to anyone over the age of 21. Governor Phil Murphy said he signed the bills later in the day. This legislation will establish an industry that brings equity and economic opportunity to our communities while establishing minimum standards for safe products and allowing law enforcement to focus on their resources on real public safety matters. Voters overwhelmingly approved a ballot measure last November that changed the state constitution to allow marijuana legalization. Under the new rules, the state's Cannabis Regulatory Commission will oversee the application for licensing of cannabis businesses. The legislation further provides for the legislature to reinvest cannabis revenues in designated impact zone, directs the CRC to promote diversity and inclusion in business ownership, and contains critical employment protections for people who engage in lawful behavior with respect to cannabis, the governor's office said in a news release. One of the new law reform penalties for low-level marijuana offenses, it prevents low-level distribution and possession offenses from being used in pretrial release, probation, and parole decisions, and provides certain protection against discrimination in employment, housing, and places for public accommodation, according to the governor's office. Another piece of the approved legislation will enforce penalties for selling marijuana to those under 21. State legislators took weeks to draft the bills and approve them due to some concerns over penalties and ensuring that the sales were prohibited to minors as well. So as we go further on inside the article, there we go. It took a lot of compromise and hard work on behalf of the legislative leaders and Governor Murphy to get this across the finish line, and they should be commended for their efforts. 14 states and the District of Columbia allow for the sale of recreational and medicinal marijuana. The Virginia state legislature is set to vote on a bill that would legalize marijuana in their state, and Governor Ralph Northam has expressed support. Again, this is another area that we need to be looking forward in regards to Virginia, because if they say, hey, you know what, we're legalizing it as well, I'm telling you, it's just a benefit furthermore for the cannabis industry. So there you have it. This is really good news for the cannabis industry, and I feel like, you know what, it's going to benefit a lot of players, especially SNDL. It's sort of like the term that we use, rising tides float all boats. A lot of cannabis stocks are going to benefit from this. Hope you found this helpful. I'll be talking to you guys tomorrow. Peace.